And as we mentioned, this is uncharted territory for France. What happens next? To discuss this, we're now being joined by Stephen Golub, international affairs expert from California. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. Always a pleasure to have you.
Good to be here.
Sir, a hung parliament, those are the prospects that France faces at the moment. The results saw the new Popular Front gain a comfortable lead. Of course, the obvious question is, what happens next?
Great question. I don't think anyone knows for sure. With all three of these major blocs aligned against each other, and at least two of the leaders of the four parties constituting the leftist bloc saying that they won't align with Macron, we could be seeing months of political paralysis. More positive options or possibilities are maybe a technocratic government being set up with a limited agenda for the time being, or maybe, despite those vows of not aligning or cooperating with Macron, at least some on the left do decide to align with him and his centrist bloc to try to form a government, although at the moment that doesn't seem like it's in the cards.
Mr. Golub, for further assessment, do you think that the results that we've seen today with the resurgence of far left in France, was that a vote against the far right or for the left-wing alliance?
I would think it's a vote primarily against the far right. As you may know, both the right, the leftist and the central blocs cooperated electorally, not running candidates against each other, because they saw this they both saw this danger of the far right rising to power with all that it could mean for domestic policy, foreign policy, fascistic elements in the right. So I'd say it's more a matter of their cooperating against the far right. If I may, one other brief observation I want to offer is that taken together with results in some other countries over the past couple of years and even weeks and months, the notion of a worldwide wave of far-right parties dominating has dissipated somewhat. Not everywhere, but you've seen far-right parties or leaders losing or being weakened over the past couple of years, starting with Brazil, but also in Poland, more recently elections in Hungary and Turkey, now France, the United Kingdom. I wouldn't say the far right was weakened, but you did have a center-left Labour Party being dominant in the results. And even in Iran, a different kind of far-right party, very, very far-right Islamist party, very, very fundamentalist, losing, or a candidate for president losing there to a more reformist candidate. So that wave of far-right victories, if it hasn't crested, at least perhaps it's dissipated somewhat.
Right, sir. Now, of course, another pertinent issue here. How do you see the results in the French parliamentary elections, of course, influencing the war in Ukraine, global diplomacy, Europe's economic instability?
Well, in terms of the war in Ukraine, you had this ironic result, whereas a decade ago, the left might have sided with Russia against Ukraine or been more sympathetic to it. Now, and you have the left being more pro-Ukraine in terms of a strong defense policy for France, in support of Ukraine, I should say, and the right being much more supportive of Putin and Russia. So that's an interesting development. So on that foreign policy front, you may have some unity there that will help out Ukraine, help the Western alliance, help NATO. In terms of more domestic issues, perhaps things will remain fractured or even more fractured in France with no ability to move forward in the weeks or months to come.
Right, Mr. Golub, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights on French parliamentary elections.
Thanks for having me.